everyone, I'm Vamika Chopra, the host of the Unsaid. This is Ahana,
Hi, I'm Mahana Mehta. I'm one of Amka's friends.
and in today's episode, which is episode 1, we'll be talking about communication between teenagers. So, I'd like to start off by asking you, what does good communication look like to you?
I think for me, good communication is just if you have a problem with someone, telling it to them directly and not getting a bunch of third parties involved. I think it is just, if I have a problem with person A, it is just saying that, okay, person A, I have a problem with something that you did. And it is not saying, okay, you know what, person B and C, you know what person A did. And then, getting that cycle.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I'll give you an example. Like, if I have a problem with you, I'm not going to come and tell you directly. I'm going to go and tell 5 or 10 other people that, you know what, I have a problem with Ahana. She did this to me and she did that to me. And it's just going to escalate because I know that those 5 or 10 people are going to come and tell you that, you know what, Vamika told me you had a problem with me. And that will distance us even more than we already are, and that's just going to like piss you off, or that's just going to get you even more irritated that, you know what, I don't even want to talk to her. Like, why would she go and tell 5, 10 other people and not me directly? I'm a very like open, like I have a very open mind. She can always come up and talk to me. I feel like that's also a huge problem, especially amongst teenagers this at our age. I feel like social media also plays a really big role in
I
this.
agree.
I'll tell you why. Because I have a problem with you, right? I will post on my story that one fake girl every school has, or that one friend of yours that talks behind your back all the time, and you will see that. And I have like 70, 80 followers like on my private account, and I'll post that and you'll see that, and I intended for you to see that, and that's how you get to know that you have a problem with me. But what I'm forgetting is you are just one out of those like 60 people. 59 other people are also viewing the story. They will all reply to my story being like, oh, is this about Ahana? And because I'm angry, I will say, yes, it's actually about her, and then I'll tell them the full story. I feel like social media is the worst thing that can happen when it comes to these
And then
things.
you're not just poisoning like yourself against that one person, you're poisoning like those 70, 60, 70 people also against that one person. And it can also be like, okay, even if you don't post it on your story, right? Even if you like a reel, God knows when you liked it. It could be like, whatever friend you were friends with, or if you accidentally press that one button, like, even if you're mindlessly scrolling, like, it happens to me so many times, right? Like at 4 a.m. if I'm scrolling, like I can't sleep, I go on my reels, I'm just scrolling, and then I see like a reel that's like, oh, like that one friend. One, my brain is too tired to process it. Two, I like everything, okay, it's fine, it's normal. And three, I might just like the song, okay,
Yeah.
so I press like and then I move on. And then a week later, someone texts me, like replies to my like, and texts me, oh my god, is this about Vamika? Or you text me, like, oh my god, who is this about? It's about me. And then I have to explain to you that no, it's not. But no, obviously no one will believe me, right? Especially if we're in a fight, like if we're in an active fight, and then you're on your reels, and then you see it, and then you're like, oh my god, that is so petty. Why won't she just talk to me? Like, it was not intentional, right? Or even if it was, maybe it wasn't targeted towards you, maybe it was, to another friend that I used to have. But you never know. There's no way of telling what that was. And I think that way social media just is so harmful, and it just exacerbates all our problems. And also, I feel like another problem with the entire social media thing is that, the way that we kind of talk, and we kind of expect everyone on social media to sense what we feel. Like, if I'm texting you, right, and I just say, like, you say, okay, then I guess the fight is over, and I reply with a lowercase k.
Yeah.
Now you might think, okay, yeah, great, fight over, now we can move on with our day. I might be thinking, I was trying to be passive aggressive, I was trying to be petty, why is she not understanding that? Why is she not texting me? And then because of that, we get into a fight. Or maybe, I stop sending her reels for that day, or I decline her call. You might be thinking, okay, she's busy, fine, whatever.
Because I may believe in the fact that I want to give you your space. Because if I was in that headspace that you might be in, I would want space. I wouldn't want you to come and keep asking me, is it okay? Are we okay? Let's talk this out. Let's just do this. I agree, talking out is important, but at the same time, giving the person the space that they need. And if I explicitly told you that, listen, Ahana, I need space, I need time to process this, I will come to you in 2-3 days, I would think that even you need space to process.
Yeah.
when it comes to texting, I feel like I'm talking from the perspective of someone who prefers texting over physical conversations. I feel like if you're a type of person who has anger issues and you know that you'll burst out, let's just say I have anger issues and me and you have an issue, I would prefer texting you. I will tell you why. Because in a physical conversation, when we're face to face, you'll tell me something that I don't like. I'll burst out in you. I'll be like, how dare you think that you can't even like walk a mile in my shoes? You don't know what I'm going through at my house, with my family. My parents are having issues with each other. Or, this teacher was so mean to me. No one's understanding. I'm getting bad grades. How I will bring my full life into that conversation just because of that one sentence that you said that triggered me. But if on text you have told me that one sentence and I knew that like that triggers me, I like before I will send the message in all caps, I'd be like, I hate you, don't ever talk to me again, I'm blocking you. But I can always delete the message that I'm not even sent to you. And I can even leave my phone aside for 15, 20 minutes and then come back to that one line that you told me and be like, listen, I didn't like the way, I know what you were trying to say, but I didn't like the way you put this across and I didn't appreciate the way that you put this across.
Yeah.
Is there a better way of doing this? But if we were doing this physically, it could have escalated into a huge fight. And I'm not blaming anything on you or anything. I'm just saying that, maybe I'm that type of person that knows that I will burst out on you. I have anger issues. I will start yelling. So maybe that's why I want to, kind of avoid. If it's unavoidable and it's only like, you can only talk this out physically, not over text, then obviously physical is better. But, for small issues or, for issues that are not as big as something, I feel like that's probably why people prefer doing it on text. Or, sometimes they can't form good sentences to say in real life or, they can't think at that point because they're not in the right headspace. On text, you can, like sort everything out and be like, you know what, yeah, maybe I should text with this. So I'm obviously saying this from a perspective of someone who would text, but personally, I believe having physical, like real life conversations are better because you can't just leave the person undelivered there, you can't delete the chat, or you can't block the person. You have to like stay there and have the conversation and face it. But maybe someone, I don't know, like prefers talking over text because they're more comfortable and they can't actually face that person. On the topic of texting, I feel like there are friendships where two people text each other 24/7, and there are some friendships like yours and mine, we text each other maybe once a day,
Yeah.
once in 2 days. I feel like that also doesn't happen sometimes because like we just had
We're busy. Like, we have our own things that we're doing.
like it just happened that because I'm giving an example, there was exam season and like starting a week before the exam and all that. So obviously all my stress is piled on to that week or those 7 days. Those 7 days I might not have enough time to text.
It's not even just about exam season, right? Sometimes, like,
there's
I might
certain
just
exams
not
that-
be, in the mood to text. I might not even want to be on my phone. And if you're calling or you're texting me, I might just reply to you later. Or I might talk to you later, like, okay, we're meeting on Saturday. You text me about something on Friday. I say, you know what? Instead of having this conversation right now, if you can, let's just have it in person. That way we can, like, actually talk it out fully instead of having it, like, halfway, like right now, that I'm just like, I'm tired, you're tired, or like, online it's difficult, because you're typing, and like with typing you don't really say everything you want to, because you also get tired of having like online, like in fights we always turn to voice messages.
Yeah, I know.
So-
but I feel like I'm giving an example of exam season because like I feel like the week before exam is starting, and then at school also, like we're just called to school to write our papers, go home again because
Yeah.
we need to study for the next day. So maybe at school after I've given my exam, I've rushed home because I have a tuition immediately after, and I may not talk to you for those 5 days, like Monday to Friday when we have an exam. I may not even talk to you at school. Now this girl, and you don't think anything of that because even you have your tuitions,
Yeah.
you have your classes, but maybe this girl or this guy approaches you and goes like, you know what, I've noticed that Vamika, like they won't put across that you both haven't been talking to each
Yeah.
other. They'll be like, you know what, I noticed that Vamika isn't talking to you. Like these past few days, like you're like usually so close or like joined by the hip and all, and these past few days, she has not been talking to you. She's just been really closed off. Like, do you all have an issue? Now that's gonna get you thinking that oh, does Vamika have an issue?
Yeah, and we might not even have an issue, but because of that, we start overthinking. And then, like, when I'm studying, I'm checking my phone, then you're checking your phone.
Oh, she texted.
But, like, none of us want to actually text each other because we kind of, like, deep down, we know that there's no issue. But because that one person said it's like playing at the top of our head, and, we will not text each other because we know that, okay, you know what, it's not an issue, right? So we won't ever directly confront each other about it. But the minute that third party gets involved, and out of anger or like confusion, I might even say, you know what, actually, yeah, you're right, we haven't texted, but I don't know, I think we're fine. That might just be me thinking out loud, right? But she might see it as, oh my god, they are definitely fighting. She will tell her friend.
Yeah.
She will tell her friends. And then the next day, you come to school and you find out that everyone's gossiping about the fact that you and your best friend are no longer friends.
Exactly.
And you're like, that never happened. Where did it blow up like this?
That's really important. Like, people play a huge role again because, again, that same person that came up to you and went like, oh, Vamika hasn't been talking to you, she'll come up to me and be like, Ahana hasn't been talking to you. And like, I may not think anything of it at first, and then I'll tell her that, you know what, maybe we do have an issue. Like, I don't know why she's not been talking to me. We usually talk at school at least, or we at least walk home together or something like that, but nothing like that has happened. She will read it as, oh, me and Hana aren't friends anymore. We literally hate each other. I never want to see Hana ever again. And she may interpret it in her own way, and she will go tell her friend group. Her friend group obviously has other friends, and then it will become an issue. And then it will actually become an issue between you and me, where I'll come and tell you that, why did you tell this girl that you had an issue with me? You could have just come to me directly. And you'll be like, no, listen, I never told this girl about the issue. But because now literally the full grade is talking about and coming to me, I'd be like, who do I believe? Like, the 40 other people are telling me, or you? That just escalates into an issue. I feel like people who get voluntarily involved, like a third person, if they're voluntarily coming and asking, then you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
But if you yourself are involving someone, it's not their fault. They're just being a good listener and a good friend who want to help you. But at the same time, I also feel like if me and you have an issue, I feel like it's important to have one close friend that, I'm not going up there and telling, oh, you know what, I hate Hana, I don't want to talk to her about it, but this is, and then I go behind your back and I start talking bad about you. I feel like you need to have that one friend outside of, like, the both of us, that you go and be like, you know what, I have an issue with Ahana because, what she did, I felt like it wasn't right because I told her I don't like this girl and she's gone out with this girl. Or, you know what, I told her how much this performance meant to me and she still didn't come to my performance.
Yeah.
This girl will offer, a very holistic perspective that, you know what, why don't you just talk to her about it in a way that doesn't make her feel bad, or in a way that, like, you're not threatening her, that, listen, how dare you do this, or something like that. That girl will offer a very third person view, but it's very important that this third girl, that you trust her, you trust the fact that she won't go and tell 10 other people that, you know what, these two best friends are having a problem, or she doesn't go and tell her friends that, these two people are having a problem. And that will just escalate into something big, which is why I feel like quality over quantity in friendships is really important.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
if I have 10 friends who I can't tell anything to, like, we just go out, we party, we have dinner, we come back. I feel like, and if I have a problem with one of them, I can't go and tell anyone about it because I feel like, they're gonna judge me. On the other hand, if I have two friends and two close friends of mine who I tell literally everything to and we can talk about anything, I feel like if I have an issue with one of them, the other will always be there for me. And, like, if we three, like, are close together, if anyone has an issue with anyone, the third person will be able to offer a third person view. So, quality over quantity is definitely really important in friendships. And those two friends that make you, like, forget, like, life or where you are and you have such a good time with, is, I would any day choose that over, like, having 30 or, like, 10 different friends.
Another really important thing that I think is, like, the basis for good communication and a strong friendship is just the ability to say sorry, like swallowing your own ego and saying sorry. Because the minute that you stop being able to saying sorry, that is like where your friendship goes down, right? Because just saying those two words requires no effort, right? It's not that big of a deal. They're two words and they can literally change someone's day. They can make someone feel so much better. And that is something that many friendships do not have, and that is the reason why many friendships actually collapse. So I think just
because I feel like if I'm saying sorry to you, it's not making me smaller, it's not making you bigger. if anything, it's kind of, walking us to that common ground that we both are having. Because if I say, listen, Ahana, I'm really sorry that you felt this way. I didn't intend for you to feel this way. You will think, oh, you know what, she's genuinely making an effort to understand me and where I'm coming from. And you also may think that, you know what, let me also say sorry to her. So that way, if we both apologize to each other, it's like, we're walking together.
Yeah, and you become more open-minded to what they're saying, right? Like if someone says that if we're having a fight, now I say my opinion, and then you say like, that I pointed out one place where you were wrong, instead of like rebutting those 5 things I said, like making a mental debate, you just say, okay, I'm sorry about that. This isn't a debate, this isn't a competition, it's a friendship, we're equals here. And it shouldn't be like one of those things I'm thinking, like I'm making a whole mental list of like, oh my god, she said this, but this doesn't match, this doesn't match. I should just be actively listening and saying that, oh my god, you're right, I'm sorry for my mistakes, I did mess up, and I won't do this in the future, and now that I know.
Owning
Yeah.
up to it. Like, owning up is not that difficult. It's not that deep. If you just own up to your side, like, you know what, yeah, maybe listen, I didn't know that this would hurt you, but I'm sorry that it did, and I'm not repeat in the future. And me just clearly communicating my thoughts to you, and me just clearly saying my side of the situation after hearing you out. And, us both apologizing to each other and ending the conversation is literally the best thing that can happen.
Yeah,
between,
exactly.
especially to best friends. And I would just like to say this, that these days, especially between teenagers, communication has become a taboo. It's become this big thing that if I communicate, and if I always communicate with people, and everyone knows that I communicate, I'll be labeled as blunt, I'll be labeled as too frank, I'll be labeled as too rude.
Or on the other hand, like, too emotional, too weak, too sensitive, can't, take a joke, or like can't take, little statement, has to make a big deal about everything.
Exactly.
If we're having a conversation, if we're communicating, we should never hold what we're saying while we're communicating against each other. Like, I feel like that happens so much, especially like even for me, right? If I'm saying something to someone and I'm opening my heart, I don't want them to use it against me in the future, and I don't want them to like use my experience. Like, I might say like, oh, I was really mean to this girl and like I messed up. They might use that, like if I said that, oh, I was really mean to this girl and I accidentally lashed out on her, the next time that they're talking to me, they might say that, oh my god, look, you're lashing out on me just like you did with her. And that might make me feel like, oh my god, why did I trust them? Like, I should just never communicate my problems in my friendships ever again. And that is like where the taboo comes in. That is the taboo that we need to break, that like it is okay to communicate, it is okay to express your emotions when you're communicating, and
Important, actually.
yeah, and you shouldn't feel like you can't say something when you're talking. Like, you shouldn't feel scared, and you should never get a bunch of people in on it. You should never feel like it's a competition between you and a friend, who's gonna win, who's gonna say sorry first. The whole idea and mentality of who is gonna say sorry first, that is like where the problem comes in, and that is the first thing that we need to demolish to actually build a ground and like a layer for a solid friendship.
Definitely. And I also feel like another important thing for communication, or as important as communication, is listening. I feel like you need to be a good listener. If you're a healthy communicator, it won't mean anything if you're not a good listener. I'll put it into context for you. If me and you are having a conversation, I'm really angry, so I just say, you know what, Ahan, let me say my part first. So I say my part, I say whatever, and I feel like, like you've nodded, you heard me out, you fully understood me, you have listened to me, and I feel like, you've understood. So now I'll be like, okay, now say sorry to me, and then you say also sorry that this, I'm sorry, felt this way. But when you start your part, I go like, no, I don't want to hear your part out. I know that I'm right. There's nothing that can change my mind. You went out with her, or you judged me, so it's your fault, and I literally have proof that you've done this, so I don't want to hear your part out. Now, what will happen is, because I've not heard you out in that one important conversation, if you ever have an issue with me in the future, you'll be like, you know what, let me just let it go. She's not going to listen to me anyways. It's like banging my head against a wall.
Yeah, and then it just starts like building up, and then one day when you finally burst, because obviously no one can keep things in for that long, when you finally burst, then all of a sudden all of those pent up emotions come out, and that can really destroy a friendship, right? Because all of a sudden you're like, no, I don't want to hear what you're saying, like I don't want to hear you defend yourself, this is my turn to speak. And the minute that we start assigning those tones, and like you say sorry, like you take all the blame or you take all the blame, you really have like a 50-50 system for the blame.
Definitely.
Because in a fight, it is always like, it might have started because of one person, but there are always 2 or more people involved, right? And you always, like, every single one of them is partly accountable in every scenario. Like, it may seem minuscule, but they had a contribution, and that is why they're still in the fight.
Exactly. So, like, listening plays like an equal role in communication, and I feel like you need to hear people out. Coming back to the point of people judging you because you communicate, why do you think that you are judged?
I think the main reason for that is actually, like, for me, I think that it starts as early as childhood, right? The way that you see your parents communicating, your parents' friends communicating, the minute that you see, like, for example, if your mom had an issue with your dad, for example, he forgot to close the cupboard, right? She says, listen, I didn't like that you didn't close the cupboard. And he says, okay, I will do it next time. And they actually have that simple, calm conversation. You kind of get into that mind space of, okay, it is fine to solve things out. Like, this is how you sort out a conversation, or like fight. You just say that, I'm sorry, or I have a problem with this, and I just think that we should solve this out calmly. But the minute that you see your parents, or like, people at an early age fighting all the time, like, your mom says, oh, I didn't like how you didn't close the cupboard, and your dad's like, oh, well, that I didn't have time, I had work, I had this. And then you kind of pick up that, okay, if someone says they have a problem, I should be defensive. So it just starts like as early as that, and it's like the people that you surround yourself with, and the kind of attitude that they have towards these kind of conversations too, that make a difference.
If you have an issue with someone, it should stay in the friend group. It should never go out, because the moment it gets out, it becomes bad.
Yeah, so I think that, like, coming back, I think, like, overall, to conclude, I think that the key to just having a strong friendship and strong communication in your friendships is just listening. Keep your problems within yourself. If me and you have a fight, we talk it out with each other. We don't talk to our other friends. Like, we don't start blaming each other and saying, like, oh my god, it was her fault, it was my, like, this person's fault, that person's fault. It's between us. And then once we sort it out and we listen to each other and we actually hear each other out, and we both put our ego aside and we say sorry, that is when we can finally have that strong and that healthy friendship that we all dream of having.
Yeah, like, I feel like just have that one conversation. Just have
Yeah.
it. It's better now. Oh, I think that's all we have to talk about on today's podcast. Thanks for listening to us, and please do subscribe and comment down below if you want me to discuss any other issues that teenagers have. Go follow Ahana's handle also.
Yeah, so I'm Mahana again. I have a blog that is also a psychology blog. It is called Lethia, and the link is down below. And I'm also in a band, so you can follow that at Anticlimactic.
I'll put
Also in
all
the bio.
links down below, and please follow the Unsaid at Instagram. Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.